Welcome, everyone. I'm absolutely thrilled to jump into this explainer with you today because we're tackling a topic that literally affects every single one of us every single day. We're going to look under the hood at the hidden biological mechanisms, the actual neurochemistry that explains why we choose to follow certain people. Like, why are we so magnetically drawn to specific managers, politicians, or community leaders? In part 14, the oxytocin bond, we're looking way past speeches and resumes and diving straight into the human brain. So let's get right into it. Take a second and picture the absolute best mentor you've ever had. You know, that person who just made you feel like you could take on the world, someone you genuinely, deeply respected. Okay, got him? Now, flip it. Think about a boss or an authority figure who honestly just terrified you, someone you only listened to because you were scared of the consequences. So what's the real difference there? Is it just their management style? Well, science tells us it's way deeper than that. That profound admiration or that paralyzing fear is actually driven by a massively powerful evolutionary and neurochemical process that has been shaping human societies for millennia.
Part 1. Two Faces of Leadership. Machiavelli versus Confucius.
If we look back at history, we basically see two completely divergent evolutionary paths for gaining influence. On one hand, you've got the Machiavellian tradition. In his famous book, The Prince, Machiavelli essentially argued that it's much safer to be feared than loved. This is dominant-style leadership. It's built on force, coercion, the constant threat of punishment, and a huge power asymmetry. But on the exact opposite side, we have the Confucian tradition. Confucius argued that a leader should be a true role model. This relies on prestige. It's all about humility, freely sharing knowledge, and demonstrating outstanding personal qualities. So while dominance forces compliance through fear, prestige earns it through love and genuine respect.
Part 2. Prestige and Oxytocin, or the chemistry of devotion. Now, when we talk about prestige, we're not just talking about some abstract social concept. We are talking about a literal, measurable chemical reaction happening right inside your brain. Hormones act as chemical messengers that trigger very specific behaviors. While dominance is heavily tied to testosterone, cortisol, and your brain's high-stress threat systems, prestige-style leadership is a whole different ballgame. Here, the biological stars of the show are hormones like oxytocin and vasopressin. These are the chemicals that actually mediate this pro-social cooperative style of leadership. They literally trigger deep emotional bonding, empathy, and trust between a leader and a follower. So when a leader shares knowledge and acts with real humility, they are quite literally sparking a release of oxytocin in your brain that biologically bonds you to them.
And as you'll see here, the emotional connection you feel completely depends on which biological pathway is firing. The oxytocin pathway, that prestige style, exclusively generates positive voluntary devotion. We're talking genuine liking, deep love, admiration, and really identifying with that leader. But compare that to dominance leadership. It's a high-stress environment. Sure, you might feel some respect or a wave of relief when a dominant leader solves an immediate crisis, but it's heavily mixed with negative emotions, mostly anger and a whole lot of fear.
To really ground this in reality, researchers have actually measured these hormonal shifts out in the field. For instance, studies on the Tsimane hunter-gatherers in the Amazon show that when hunters are out working together, their oxytocin levels actually spike right alongside their testosterone. It's incredible evidence showing how oxytocin acts in concert with other hormones during complex cooperative group activities, like social foraging, to shape long-lasting leader-follower cooperation. It is basically the biological formula for ultimate teamwork.
Part 3. The leader as a safe haven, bringing in attachment theory.
Psychologists McCullencer and Shaver hit the nail on the head with this incredible analogy. They write, "Leaders may occupy the role of the stronger and wiser caregiver and may provide a safe haven and secure base for their followers." I mean, think about that. When you strip away the corporate titles and the politics, an effective, oxytocin-driven leader biologically soothes their followers' anxiety exactly like a sensitive parent calms a child. They act as this social anchor, absorbing the emotional stress of the environment so your panic drops and you can actually function at your absolute best.
Remember that amazing mentor I asked you to picture at the start? I bet they had these exact traits. A secure-based leader is highly sensitive and responsive to what you need. They don't just bark orders at you. They provide the actual emotional and instrumental resources you need to succeed. They support your autonomy, your initiative to take risks, and by doing that, they drastically enhance your self-efficacy. They make you truly believe you can tackle the hard stuff. Honestly, this is what true psychological safety actually looks like in practice.
Part 4. The Broaden and Build Cycle, or as I see it, the psychological cascade.
This brings us to a fascinating mental chain reaction known as the broaden and build cycle. Let's walk through it. Step 1.
Because your leader acts as a safe haven, you feel deeply esteemed and accepted. You aren't constantly looking over your shoulder. That flows right into step 2, a massive boost in confidence in your own coping skills. Since you aren't terrified of making a mistake and facing harsh punishment like you would be under a dominant leader, you relax, and that opens the floodgates for step 3, creative exploration and acquiring new skills. You finally have the mental bandwidth to innovate. It's wild to think about, but simple acceptance actually blossoms into unprecedented creativity.
I really want to emphasize this point right here. In today's working world, empowerment gets tossed around as just another corporate buzzword. But according to the science, it is so much more than that. True empowerment is the concrete biological output of this oxytocin-fueled broaden and build cycle. By providing attachment security, a leader is directly, biologically increasing a follower's creativity, autonomy, and overall mental well-being.
Part 5. Who do we choose? Navigating modern leadership.
So, why does all this evolutionary history matter right now? Well, we as humans are wired to react to both of these systems depending on our environment. The dominance pathway, that fear-based hierarchy, is typically triggered when we face existential threats, major intergroup conflict, or when we need strict norm enforcement to survive an immediate crisis. It evolved to solve problems fast, from the top down. But the prestige pathway, our oxytocin bond, is triggered by the need for cooperative innovation, complex, long-term problem-solving, and social learning. It doesn't rely on blind obedience. It relies on freely given respect. Both are baked into our biology, but they create completely different work environments and societies.
Which brings us to a final provocative thought for today's explainer. As you navigate your career, your community, or even the broader political landscape, I want you to evaluate the chemical and psychological foundations of your own relationships. In our incredibly complex modern world, are you following a leader because of a shared vision built on a genuine oxytocin bond, or are you just bowing to authority out of a primal, subconscious fear? Understanding this hidden biology gives you the power to really see the truth behind your choices. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and I'll catch you next time.